There's a certain sound in aviation which is guaranteed to raise both your heartbeat and your excitement levels. Listen to this. Hey all, welcome to the Sim Hangar. My name's Mark, thanks for watching and let's get started. I am of course referring to the Spitfire, and in particular the FlyingIron Spitfire Mk IX, and they've just released a major update making the best even better. It's version 1.1 and available for download directly from Flying Irons. If you purchase the product on the Marketplace for Xbox or for the PC, well, we all know it takes Microsoft an age to update there, and I'm afraid you're in for a 2 or 3 week wait. Oh, and they've just released a hotfix to this update, adding back the wing cannons. Non-functional, of course. The developers have done extensive work on the flight model and retuned almost every aspect. She handles differently and I can only assume more realistically, and if anything she's easier to manage on takeoff. And as you saw, we've also got fire in the pipes. They've done quite a bit of work on the texturing, which was already very good. Even better sounds, and a tablet that makes configuration and fuel setup a whole lot easier and quicker. Let's dive in and have a look. The texturing in the cockpit has received some love and attention and looks fantastic. To toggle the tablet on, you need to flick the switch and up pops your tablet. Before we start her up and take to the air, let's have a quick look at what you get. The main menu's on the bottom and the first item is checklists. You can now access your checklists in the cockpit via the tablet and covering all phases of flight. The second item is a lookup table for your V-speeds in miles per hour and knots. You've also got live data. Most of that only comes alive with your engine running, but handy for weather. And under the stats column you can look at any flight data over the last 10 minutes. Refueling has been made simple and easy with short, medium and long range. And you can also get a quick lookup on your oxygen levels. I think medium for this flight will do just nicely. Interestingly, there's also an autopilot. We'll give that a go once we're up and away, but not something I'd use too often. I like to hand fly this bird. And lastly, and a very welcome addition, is access to some setting tabs. You can turn engine damage on or off, toggle your gun sight and your GPS, as well as your flight stick on or off. You can also opt for a manual pushback. Click it on to start, click it off to stop the pushback. And you can now set your radio to preset channels A, B, C and D. Set the channel and press the appropriate button to set it. Note pressing the D button on the radio no longer turns engine damage on or off. It's done here in the settings menu. To remove the tablet, just hit the power button and it's gone. Okay, let's get this started. First of all, the battery switch, and that's located behind the throttle. Quite hard to get to, but there's an easy way, and that is simply push the throttle forward and your battery's on. You'll know it's on because your gear indicator light will light up. We've now got power. Second step, let's get our nav lights on, and that's the switch here. Pull it down and they're on. This lets everybody know we're in the aircraft, and now your propeller lever fully forward. And just behind the throttle quadrant, the carb air filter fully forward as well. That's done. Let's get our fuel on. I've hidden the flight stick so it's easier to see. And now let's just check that our external fuel tanks are off, which they are. My throttle's set between quarter and half. Now let's pump that wobble pump until the red light indicator goes off. If it's cold and dark, it can be anything between 7 and 12 pumps. There we go, it's off. We've now got enough fuel pressure to start. I am starting from cold and dark, so time to prime the engine. Untwist to unlock. It's about 10 degrees Celsius outside, so 7 pumps. Hold the left mouse button down and click the right mouse button to activate the primer. Lock the primer back in place, we're done. Next, let's drop the caps on the starter and booster coil. Now back to the throttle quadrant and mixture can go fully forward. We're almost set for start now. Our mags both left and right on. The Mag 2 issue with this update has been fixed, by the way, which is great. Now we start the engine by holding the mouse between the booster and starter coil and press the left mouse button. Hold it down till we get start. We have a successful start, so we can now close the door, click it to pull it up and then lock it in place with the latch. That's done. I'm going to leave the canopy open for now. Brakes off and a gentle taxi to the runway. We're cleared for takeoff and starting to line up. You really do need a set of rudder pedals and differential brakes for controlling this. I just love the gurgle of these engines. Okay, so we're about ready to go. I'm just going to give it a little bit of right rudder trim, as the Spit has a strong tendency to go to the left due to the engine torque. And if you're struggling with takeoffs on the Spitfire, it's probably because you're using too much throttle. You should target your boost between 6 and 8. I've got a little bit of a crosswind, but no problem. Let's get this beauty into the air. Advancing the throttle with one eye on the boost. Looking for something around 6 to 7. That'll be plenty for takeoff. Whoop, a little bit squirrely. Advance the throttle once airborne. She can have a tendency to nose up, but keep your eye on the airspeed. Gear now coming up. Airspeed building nicely. You may have noticed I took off with my canopy open, and weather permitting, this was standard practice, I believe. It was a safety thing in case of a crash during takeoff, and it would enable the pilot to get out of the aircraft much easier. Pilots would often do the same on landing. I've never flown a Spitfire, of course, but the flight model just feels right. She's agile at speed, but a little lumpy and nose heavy as you slow down. And if you've got engine damage on, for maximum realism, make sure you keep your revs at or below 2650. And watch that oil temperature. You don't want it going over 100 degrees C or you're going to get engine problems. And I've had more than my fair share of these in this challenging but really enjoyable aircraft. She's a challenge, but such a sense of satisfaction when you get it right. Whilst we're flying south of Sunburg, let's have a look at the autopilot and see how that works. I've tried this update in VR and the tablet is equally as visible, no problems there. Right, let's put on the autopilot and this should level out the flight, which it is doing. It's a fairly basic autopilot. Let me just try the heading. Change the heading now. I'm going to choose something, let's see, 40 degrees, yes. Seems to be working. Altitude's holding and we're banking to the left. Didn't reset my altimeter before taking off, no matter. Clicked in 500 feet. Now is this 500 feet vertical speed or is it the altitude? Well, it looks like I'm climbing at about 200-300 feet, so that must be the altitude. From what I can see, you can't set the vertical speed for the climb. Well, the autopilot works and it'll give you an opportunity when doing a longer haul flight in the Spitfire to grab that cup of coffee. But as far as I'm aware, Spitfires, well, they just didn't have autopilot. But I'm not sure, so I stand to be corrected on this point. Well, it's time to attempt a landing. Speed coming up on 160 and gear is down. Let's see if I can do a bounce-free landing for a change. Puppy lights showing I'm a little bit low. Time to put my flaps down, and the amount of inertia you feel when your flaps come down is significant. These are more air brakes than they are flaps. Adjusting my throttle as I go. Ideally I want to come over the threshold, maybe just above 100 miles an hour. A little bit too much throttle. I put my flaps down perhaps a little bit too early. That's okay, we got quite a long runway. As I level off, the speed will fall away equally as quickly. Touchdown at just over 90 knots. Oh well, not too much of a bounce, but still a bounce. Time to taxi in and put my flaps away. Well, this is a fairly significant update to the FlyingIron Spitfire Mark IX. I'm really enjoying it and saying to the developers, well done. You've made what was already a pretty good aircraft into an excellent one, and something I'll certainly be spending many more hours in. And today I've been piloting the Spitfire with my authenticate flight stick and throttle. If you'd like to know more about this, check out my video, link in the notes below. Well, as you've guessed by now, I like it, and it comes highly recommended. Available in the marketplace for both Xbox and PC. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you found it useful and informative. Stay well, stay safe. I'll see you soon, and bye for now.